Hello. So if you're looking at this video, you are getting close to getting done. We just have a few more steps. I'm going to show you how to create motion within pictures as well as how to edit them to the audio. Create keyframes. It's a super cool thing. It makes it more dynamic and just nicer to watch. So here we go. Alright, so I made a folder because I'm going to import in a lot of pictures. I've selected that folder and I'm going to go to import. Go to where they're at. You're going to go to your hard drive. I'm going to my Dropbox. I'm going to select the first one, hold down the shift to select them all, to drag them all in at once. And there they are. They're in this folder because it was selected. And here they are. All right. So I'm going to separate the audio and then I'm going to drag these down where I want them on the timeline. But first I'm going to get the audio. Drag it down to the timeline, hold down the control, click, unlink, click off, click on, delete that. This is the music to Thriller, by the way, but I want to get to the music, the actual Thriller part.
Well, I can't watch.
That's what I want. So I hover over it, get that line, and now I'm dragging it over closer to where I want the pictures. I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of pictures. What I should have done is rename them before I dragged them in, and that way I won't have a bunch of numbers and not really know what they are. You can click and drag a bunch of them in at once, which I'm going to do so I can at least see what I'm working with. I did rename one, although that doesn't really do that much. Now this is, you can see that it's taking about a minute of time. The default time to drag something straight from the project window into the timeline is 5 seconds, and I actually want it less than that. So let's make these are totally out of order. This happens to be the flash mob of Thriller. People dressed up like zombies and danced in the park. So now that just doesn't match up. So let's start with the crowd shot because they're watching. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. I'm using video 1 and 2 to line up the different shots that I want, to put them in some kind of order, and then I'm going to snap them to the music as well as create motion within them. So I'm going to take some time and sort of arrange them, and then I'll show you how to edit them. Alright, so on the timeline I have Michael Jackson's Thriller down here, and then some pictures from a little weekend dance up here. So let's take a look at it, and we're going to create motion in it. So there's fades, keyframes.
It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but
Okay, so when the pictures are shorter, it's better, it's just more exciting. But I want to show you how you can make motion within these pictures to make them a little bit more dynamic. So I'm going to click on this clip, and you can see before, you typically have a source window open here. If you don't see effect controls in Audio Mixer, go up to Window and go to Workspace and reset the current workspace, and they will show up there. I already have it here, so I'm going to, this lets you go into video effects. If ever you choose any effects from this window down here under video effects, if you were to click, well, this is a whole folder. If you were to click any of these and drop them on a clip, it will show up here. You can then create different effects within it. But I really don't want the channel blur, so I'm going to delete it. And instead, I'm going to go into motion because I want to create motion within this clip. This is the duration of the clip. And you can see that there are already opacity keyframes down here. So it starts from dark and then you see the clip fade in. That's what the opacity is. I'm going to create motion, so let's say that we're going to zoom in on them. So the clip fades in. These are how to create keyframes. So the scale is how big it is, the position is where it's at. So let's say we are going to make it a little bit bigger. And I should have actually moved it over a little bit because we wanted to start it smaller and have it grow bigger. And let's sort of move the camera this way. So what I essentially did, I clicked and dragged it in the program window, and wherever this blue timeline marker was is where it created the keyframe. You can always delete these if you don't want them by selecting them and clicking on delete, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to move it over a little bit. And really, you shouldn't create any motion when you're fading something in because that is in itself its own motion. So I'm going to drag these over. So let's see what that motion looks like right over here.
It's close to midnight.
Now I want to show you one other thing. I put clips in video 2 and video 1. If you overlap them, whatever is in 2 or the upper levels of video will supersede the levels below it. So I just made it a little bit longer here, and that is when this clip ends is when you see what's below it. I'm going to zoom in by clicking the plus. If you create a keyframe here, you can create, by holding down the command and clicking, you can then create your own fade and have a little bit more control instead of just dragging over the clip from over here for video transition, which is at the very bottom. You can put a cross dissolve between two clips that are next to each other, but this is a way where you can really control it. So if you wanted something that was really short, because the opacity is at the very bottom here, it doesn't matter how long this clip is, but the opacity is at the very bottom. When it hits this keyframe down below, that is when it will stop. So let's just take a look.
It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark.
This one should probably also have some motion in it. So let's click on this one and we see that there's nothing on it. It's clean right now. Doesn't have any keyframes. We're going to create some. So let's lock position and scale there, and from those keyframes it will, sure, let's zoom in, but let's do it slowly. So let's pull it out a little bit and take a look.
Something evil's lurking in the dark.
Now, a cross dissolve doesn't work there because it really should be snapping. So I'm just going to click on that and delete it. Now I wanted to show you something else about these pictures. These pictures, you can always see how there's black below and above it, and that is fine, but I just want you to know that you can select that, click in the program window, and you can drag these handles to make it bigger if you want, so that it fills the screen. So same thing with this one. Let's click and drag it and make it a little bit bigger. In some cases, if you bring in pictures from photography, they might already be really big. And in that case, if they're showing up big in the program window, click on it, slide it over to get these handles, and then make it smaller. So you can have a lot of control by just editing also in the program window. Let's just sort of just put it right there. But it's kind of cool whenever you have a longer clip, you can see that this is longer. Let's just create a little bit of motion in there. Let's just go from side to side. So we're not going to make it any bigger, but we're just going to slide it. So once again, go into motion. The scale is fine, but let's position it here, and we're going to slide it over this way. So now it'll look like this. You try to scream, but Tara takes the sound before you make it. You start to breathe. And for this last one, let's just put in some keyframes right on the timeline. I'm going to click. Well, first you have to select it to make it bigger and create keyframes by holding down the command and taking it down to the bottom. And because that's the end of it, let's also just fade out the music right here too. This is just a quick little tutorial on how to create motion within pictures, but your identity piece will have more of a conclusion and will have other things. So the narration will then kick in and you'll say something like, in addition to dancing, I also like to knit, and then you can show yourselves like knitting, show yourself knitting like a vest or I don't know, socks or something. So that is the next piece. Thanks.